The Vanishing of the Roanoke Colony, a tale of mystery and disappearance. In the late 16th century, as England sought to expand its empire and stake its claim in the New World, a bold and ambitious attempt was made to establish the first permanent English settlement in North America. This settlement, known as the Roanoke Colony, was destined to become one of the most famous and enduring mysteries in American history. The story of Roanoke is one of bravery, hope, and aspiration, but it's also one marked by failure, isolation, and a haunting disappearance that has puzzled historians, archaeologists, and explorers for over 400 years. What happened to the colonists of Roanoke? Were they destroyed by hostile forces, assimilated by Native American tribes, or did they simply succumb to the harsh realities of the wilderness? The fate of Roanoke remains unsolved, shrouded in mystery, and has given rise to countless theories. This is the story of the Roanoke Colony, its founding, its struggles, and its eerie, unexplained vanishing. The early days, England's first steps toward colonization. The story of Roanoke begins with the vision of Sir Walter Raleigh, a favorite of Queen Elizabeth I, who in 1584 received a royal charter to explore and colonize the coast of North America. The Queen hoped to establish a permanent foothold in the New World, to counter Spain's growing empire. Raleigh was charged with planting the English flag and founding a colony that would serve both as a base for privateering against Spanish ships and as a symbol of England's imperial ambitions. In April 1584, Raleigh dispatched an expedition led by Philip Amadas and Arthur Barlow to scout potential sites for a colony. After crossing the Atlantic, they landed on an island off the coast of present-day North Carolina, an area inhabited by the Algonquian-speaking Native Americans. The Englishmen were impressed by the island's natural beauty and resources, noting its fertile land, abundant wildlife, and friendly indigenous people. They returned to England with glowing reports as well as two Native Americans, Montejo and Wanchese, who would become intermediaries between the English and the local tribes. Based on these reports, Raleigh named the new territory Virginia, in honor of Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen. The English crown eagerly backed Raleigh's plans to establish a permanent colony, and in 1585, he organized the first expedition to settle Roanoke Island. The first attempt, the 1585 colony. In the spring of 1585, Sir Richard Grenville, a cousin of Raleigh, set sail with a fleet of ships carrying over 600 men, including soldiers, craftsmen, and scientists. The fleet arrived at Roanoke Island in July 1585. The colonists built a fort and began exploring the surrounding area, hoping to establish trade relations with the local Native American tribes. At first, relations with the indigenous people, particularly the Secotan and the CROATOAN tribes, were relatively peaceful. Montejo, one of the Native Americans who had traveled to England, acted as a liaison between the English and the tribes. However, tensions soon arose. The colonists, struggling to feed themselves, relied heavily on the local tribes for food, leading to conflict over resources. The colony's military governor, Ralph Lane, led several expeditions to explore the mainland, but his heavy-handed tactics and suspicion of the Native Americans only worsened relations. In one infamous incident, Lane attacked the village of the Secotan chief Wingina, killing the chief and several of his people. This act of violence irreparably damaged the colony's relationship with the local tribes, who began to withdraw their support and, in some cases, turned hostile. By the summer of 1586, the situation had grown dire. The colony was running low on supplies, and with tensions mounting with the Native Americans, the colonists feared an attack. In June, an English fleet led by Sir Francis Drake, returning from a successful raid in the Caribbean, stopped at Roanoke. Drake offered to take the colonists back to England, and Lane and his men, disheartened and desperate, accepted the offer. By the time Grenville arrived later that summer with additional supplies and reinforcements, the colony had been abandoned. Grenville left behind a small garrison of 15 men to maintain England's claim to the land, but their fate would soon become another mystery, as they too would vanish without a trace. The second attempt, John White, and the 1587 colony. Despite the failure of the first colony, Raleigh remained determined to establish a permanent settlement in the New World. In 1587, he organized a second attempt, this time with a more civilian-focused group of colonists, including women and children, in the hopes of creating a sustainable community. The leader of this new expedition was John White, an artist and mapmaker who had been part of the first Roanoke expedition. On May 8, 1587, White set sail from England with a group of 115 settlers, including his daughter Eleanor Dare and her husband. Among the colonists were farmers, carpenters, and other skilled tradesmen, all necessary to build and maintain a new society. Their goal was to establish a colony on the Chesapeake Bay, but upon reaching Roanoke Island in late July, they found the site of the first colony deserted and the small garrison left by Grenville missing. Despite the unsettling discovery, the colonists decided to settle on Roanoke Island. They repaired the old fort and began building houses, but from the outset, they faced the same challenges as the previous colonists: limited supplies, isolation, and increasingly strained relations with the local tribes. Montejo, who had remained loyal to the English, continued to assist the colonists, but his influence could only go so far. In August 1587, Eleanor Dare gave birth to a daughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the New World. Her birth was a moment of hope for the struggling colony, but it would soon be overshadowed by the grim realities of life on Roanoke Island: John White's departure and the colony's disappearance. As the summer of 1587 wore on, it became clear that the colony would not survive without additional supplies from England. The settlers implored John White to return to England and seek aid, a request he reluctantly accepted. In late August, White left Roanoke Island, leaving behind his daughter, his newborn granddaughter, and the rest of the colonists with the promise to return with fresh supplies as quickly as possible. White's return to England, however, was delayed by a series of unforeseen events. The Anglo-Spanish War had erupted, and Queen Elizabeth had ordered that all available ships be used to defend England against the Spanish Armada. As a result, White was unable to secure a vessel for his return to Roanoke for 3 long years. When White finally returned to Roanoke Island in August 1590, he found the colony abandoned. The houses had been dismantled, and there was no sign of the settlers. The only clue to their fate was the word CROATOAN, carved into a post of the fort, and the letters CRO carved into a nearby tree. There was no sign of a struggle, no graves, and no bodies. The colonists had simply vanished. White interpreted the word CROATOAN as a possible message indicating that the settlers had relocated to CROATOAN Island, modern-day Hatteras Island, where the friendly Croatan tribe lived. However, a series of storms prevented White from exploring the island, and he was forced to return to England without ever learning the fate of his family or the other colonists. Theories and speculation. What happened to the Roanoke colonists? In the centuries since the disappearance of the Roanoke colony, numerous theories have been proposed to explain what happened to the settlers. Some of the most prominent theories include assimilation with native tribes. One of the most widely accepted theories is that the colonists were absorbed into one or more local Native American tribes, such as the Croatan. Proponents of this theory point to the CROATOAN carving as evidence that the settlers intended to move to CROATOAN Island, where they may have lived peacefully among the tribe. Destruction by hostile tribes. Another theory is that the colonists were attacked and killed by hostile Native American tribes, such as the Secotan, who had grown increasingly hostile to the English presence in the region. However, the absence of any signs of a struggle or massacre at the Roanoke site weakens this theory. Starvation and exposure. The settlers may have succumbed to the harsh conditions of life on Roanoke Island. The colony was isolated, and the settlers had limited access to food and resources. It's possible that they were forced to abandon the settlement and seek refuge elsewhere, only to perish in the wilderness. Spanish attack. Some historians have speculated that the Spanish, who were at war with England and had established a strong presence in Florida, may have attacked and destroyed the colony. However, there is no evidence to support this theory, and Spanish records make no mention of such an attack. Natural disaster. A less commonly discussed theory is that the colony was wiped out by a natural disaster, such as a hurricane or disease. While this could explain the sudden disappearance, it does not account for the CROATOAN message, supernatural explanations. Over the years, more fantastical theories have emerged, suggesting that the colonists fell victim to supernatural forces or curses. These theories, though intriguing, are largely dismissed by historians as speculative and unsubstantiated. The enduring mystery of Roanoke. Despite centuries of research, excavations, and speculation, the fate of the Roanoke colonists remains one of the most enduring mysteries in American history. Archaeological evidence has been scarce, and no definitive proof has been found to explain what happened to the settlers. In the years following the disappearance of the colony, English efforts to establish a foothold in North America shifted to other locations, most notably Jamestown in Virginia, which became the first successful English colony in 1607. But the legend of the lost colony of Roanoke has continued to capture the imagination of generations, inspiring books, movies, television shows, and even conspiracy theories. The mystery of Roanoke remains unsolved, and the question lingers. What happened to the men, women, and children who vanished from Roanoke Island over 4 centuries ago?